Bienvenidos and welcome back to Puro Pinche Gol, the place where we discuss all things USMNT y la seleccionmexicana. My name is Adrian. I'm joined once again by my co-host and Tocayo, Adrian. Adrian, what's good, man? How are you?
I'm doing all right, dude. Just here packing up. I'm leaving to Mexico tomorrow. And while I was doing my stuff, I was also watching eltri destroy Honduras.
Yeah, man. El back, hopefully. Obviously, the opposition played a factor, but we'll get into it. This episode, we're going to be going over a couple takeaways, three takeaways from each match: USA, Jamaica, and Mexico, Honduras. After the first jornada, the first round of matches, at least for those two countries, concluded here this weekend. Let's start off with the first game that happened. The first game for the USA and the first game to inaugurate the Gold Cup 2023. USA against Jamaica. Jamaica, obviously, we discussed in the USA Gold Cup preview, and I think it was shown in this previous match against the USA that they are going to be a force, man. They played well. I think of their starting 11, six of them were playing in the EPL or Championship. So they gave this B squad USA team a run for their money, and they at times dominated. I think the possession dominated the game, the speed of play, and if it weren't for our first takeaway here, Matt Turner, I think the USA could have come out with a loss. I think this match just goes to show the importance of Matt Turner. He's been developing into a great keeper, as we've noticed with the United States in the past at least 20, 30 years. In one position they haven't really struggled ever with is goalkeeper, right? They had Brad Friedel, they had Casey Keller, Tim Howard. They've always had a really good keeper that's played at the high level. Matt Turner now, I believe, has become the undisputed number one by a long space, right? I mean, he's a lot better than Zach Steffen, than Horvath. And if he wasn't for him blocking that penalty and a couple other crucial saves, I think the USA could have came out in trouble here. Would you agree with that? Do you think Turner is number one undisputed?
I think so. I mean, he kind of sort of settled into that role out of a whim, right? I guess no one expected him to take the spot from Zach Steffen because Steffen was pretty much the first option for Triple G during his, I guess, the first years of his tenure, right? But I think it goes to show that Matt Turner is settling not only as a goalkeeper but as a leader on that dressing room. I think it's also interesting to see how he's taking that role with the USMNT, even though he doesn't have that much playtime with Arsenal. So hopefully this Gold Cup and the Nations League help him to find a new a team, so it catches someone's eye in Europe and he's able to get more playtime. So he continues to have strong displays with the USMNT.
Yeah, definitely at least a lone move, if not a permanent move.
Mm-hmm.
He oftentimes finds himself playing in the FA Cup or Carabao Cup, but he definitely needs more consistency. Um, that kind of brings us to our next point. So BJ Callahan decided to play a 4-2-3-1 this match with Matt Turner in goal. The back four being DeAndre Yedlin and Tolkien on the wings, with Matt Miazga and Aaron Long in the center back roles. In the kind of two holding midfielders was Aiden Morris and Sands, and the attackers were Sendejas, Ana Sonora, uh, Jordan Morris, and Jesus Ferreira. I think what we could take away from this lineup and from that performance, especially in the first half, um, this might sound harsh, but man, I think it's time to stop calling Aaron Long, stop calling Jordan Morris, stop calling, even though he came on in the second half. He didn't play horrible, but there was, I just don't see why he's still being called up. Christian Roldan, these three players, nothing against, people are going to say, hate MLS. No, we know MLS, it's fine. We watch it.
Yeah,
There's a lot of players here that are MLS based that we root for, we support, we think are good players. But I just think these three players in particular have outlasted their
yeah.
performance. Right, their performance
Hmm.
to their call up to performance ratio, it's a lot lower. That they're not
Yeah,
performing as what they should be.
and especially with the pool of players that you have right now, I still, I mean, I'm still scratching my head as to why they keep on calling them specifically.
Yeah, I don't know if how who they know or how they keep getting called up, but I mean, like we rolled on, and all three of them went to the World
Yeah.
Cup. Now that I think about it, and they got playing time. Two of them, I don't think Roldan did, but I know Long and Morris did. I don't know, man. For these types of games, you would expect United States B team to be dominant at this type of Gold Cup situation. They weren't. These guys weren't the only ones to blame, but I think there were two or three of the performers that I just was like, they just don't deserve to be called up anymore for the at least until if they improve, call them up. But at the level they're playing at, especially with the national team right now, we saw on that goal that Jamaica scored. Long kind of lost his man. Miazga was still kind of playing him in, but Long should have kind of carried him or
Yeah.
kept track of him. I don't know. It just time to get new blood in there for There's plenty of young guys in MLS, young guys across Europe that we could call in for this type of tournament. That we don't have to keep relying on these type of players.
Mm-hmm.
That brings us to the next point. The last point about the USA. Brandon Vasquez, man, he came in, saved the day with 15 minutes of playing time or less. And I think based off his performance, he took advantage of the time he was playing in there. The side note, he in this game has officially become cap tied to the USMNT. He was still, he still had potential to go play for Mexico, but he had played in the January Climb Cupcakes, but as we know, those were not official matches. So with this, he becomes officially tied to the USMNT. He scored on his official debut on an official match. Wasn't amazing goal, but it was a rebound off a defender from Jamaica. He did a poacher's goal, right? Forward's goal. He got it.
He was there when he needed to, right? He was
Right.
there in the right place at the right time.
That's what you need from your forwards,
Mm-hmm.
that instinct. So,
Exactly.
going forward in this tournament, I'd like to see BJ Callahan start Brandon Vasquez, maybe take a Ferreira out or play him at a lower position, kind of where he had Sonora as kind of a 10 role, because I didn't see Sonora do much either. But definitely as the number 9 role, play Brandon Vasquez.
Yeah, man, for sure. I mean, you're not gonna get any disagreement from me. It's not a lie that I'm a huge fan of Brandon Vasquez, and it's as sad as I feel right now because he's capped to the USMNT. I still had that, some hope that he would, take the challenge and join eltri. I don't blame him. I probably would do the same thing if I was on his situation, right? Especially because he's linked to, I think, to a move to the Bundesliga. I don't know where,
Yeah.
but he's probably soon going to be playing over there. And yeah, I think he has proven that he needs to be at least given the shot to be the next starting striker for the next
Right.
match. I think even though he didn't play that much, and of course the goal helps him in his, I guess getting a better grade performance-wise for this match. I think he was still more uncomfortable and more active than Jesus Ferreira throughout the entire match. I know that people like Jesus Ferreira. I know that BJ Callahan and Triple G and all those guys like Jesus Ferreira, but I just don't get it, man. I really don't. I just don't. I don't see how Jesus Ferreira is better than Brandon Vasquez. I don't see how man. You know what? Even take Yassi Sardes, dude. Like honestly,
That's a hot take, man. I don't know, man. I don't know about
I
that,
mean,
but
why not call Haji Wright? Why not call Jordan Pifok, right?
I'll agree with you on
Instead
that.
of
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Saturdays probably I don't agree with you there, but yeah, Peacock, Kaji, right? Yeah, definitely. I think all those guys are above the pecking order for Jesus Ferreira.
yeah.
But from the forwards he has in this tournament, definitely Brandon Vasquez should be given the starting spot at least for the next match. See what he can do up there. So that kind of brings us up to the next match for the USA. They're going to be playing St. Kitts and Nevis, who lost 3-0 to Trinidad and Tobago. This game's going to be on June 28th, Wednesday. So the USA should not have a problem with that, I would hope. But we'll see, man. We'll see. Let's get into Mexico, man. Mexico ended up winning 4-0 against Honduras in Houston today. Started with a 4-3-3 with Guillermo Ochoa in the back, Sanchez and Gallardo on the wings, the wing backs, Alvarez playing center back, which we've seen him play before, not his preferred position, but we've seen him play before. Vasquez as the other center back. The three in the middle were Sanchez, Luis Chavez, and Romo, and the three forwards were Antuna, Pineda, Orbelin Pineda, and Henry Martin. What can you tell us about this, man? What's our first takeaway from Mexico Honduras?
Well, I mean, the first takeaway that I think we have to address, and it's the elephant in the room. It was obvious to plain sight. They just didn't like the Coca. They're plain and simple, right? I mean, I'm not gonna say that everything is fixed. That now everything surprisingly works, and Mexico is on the right path to mend all of the mistakes they have made for the last few years. But it was quite noticeable where how the players were comfortable with Jimmy Lozano, right? And also it also helps that Jimmy Lozano understands the Mexican mentality and how a Mexican player should behave and what formation benefits the strengths of the Mexican player. Um, but I mean, you can tell that it just felt different, right? They were flowing on the match. Also, and the small caveat is they were playing against a highly dysfunctional Honduras.
Right.
I mean, and so that just adds up to the somewhat strong display they had on today's match. But it could be like just a quick espejismo, right? It could be just a facade where we feel that maybe Mexico is regaining strength, but honestly, they had an opposition that didn't have much to do. No metieron ni las manos.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see them when they inevitably get out of the group and have a tougher opposition. It probably won't be against us until the semifinals when they really have a tough
Yeah.
opposition.
Mm-hmm.
But the way they played today, they showed a lot more charisma, showed a lot more ability on the ball, showed a lot more just tactical
They look like a team,
sense,
man.
and they look like a team that they haven't looked
Yeah.
like for months. And they look like they've played with each other before, and it just has to do, like you said. Jaime Lozano has coached these guys before at various levels in their development, and maybe playing for a Mexican that understands the program, understands the intricacies of the Mexican national team
Mm-hmm.
is helpful. So
Yeah.
yeah, Jimmy Lozano off to a outstanding 4-0 win. Let's see how it keeps going. What's the next takeaway from this match, bro?
The next one, I think the another clear one was Orbelin Pineda on this match. He was highly participative throughout the entire match. He scored a goal. I believe he also gave an assist, if I'm not mistaken. Um,
I believe you're right. Yeah.
and
Hmm.
just strong display from El Maguito. I think this is the kind of Orbelin that we want to see more often
Hmm.
with Mexico. I think this is specifically the Orbelin that we wanted to see against the USMNT, but you can tell that he was not in his element following Diego Coca's game style. I think with this 4-3-3, he is way more comfortable. He's way more open to provide support to Henry Martin, and not only to Henry Martin but also to Luis Romo and Jesus Gallardo as they play on the same side of the court. Sorry, of the pitch. You could definitely tell that Orbelin Pineda was not only static on that specific side of the pitch, he was actually moving a little to the middle so he can, if Henry Martin was able to pull some defenders and drag the mark, he was able to fill in that specific spot and then move on a more offensive or more dangerous side during an offensive drive. So kudos to Orbelin Pineda. Great display from him today, and I think he topped it up with that goal.
Yeah, it's not Orbelin we're used to seeing for AEK Athens.
Mhm. Yeah.
He finally had someone. I mean, even Henry Martin, he played a lot better. He didn't play outstanding, but he was playing great hold up play in between them two. Like you said, I mean, Orbelin was finding spaces, and he just looked dangerous. An Orbelin we haven't seen in so long for La Selección since Diego
Yeah.
Coca took over, so it was good to
Mhm.
see him back. What's the next point that we took away from this match, bro?
So as we talked before we started the pod today, it was. I mean, I know that they won 4-0, but it's also difficult to find some takeaways just because of how poor Honduras was. But I think another big one is Edson Alvarez. I mean, there was a lot of speculation before this match where he he probably was injured or he was leaving camp because he needed to fix or find out his future with Ajax or Borussia Dortmund. Um, but I think tonight was another strong display from Nelson Alvarez that reminds us that he's a very versatile player. That he's not only capable to play, as a strong central midfielder, but he's also a good center back when needed. Like you don't have to rely on other players that may not be going through their best performance or their best form, and you can always move them into that specific position. But the other thing that I want to mention that I think is more valuable it's off the pitch, right? So I don't know if you noticed, but when they saw Uriel Antuna, which he's one of those Mexican players that has a very love-hate relationship with the fans. Whenever they saw him, a good portion of the stadium started booing him, and with good reason, right? I'm not gonna say that it's not that it's uncalled for, because he hasn't had a strong display in a while with Mexico, and you can tell that he's not the best decision maker on the last third of the pitch. But that's for a different pod, for a different episode. But they boo him really hard, dude, and you could see Edson Alvarez running next to his side, just cheering him up, pretty much telling him like, "Hey, ignore the haters. Don't worry about this. You had a good display today." Just showing those leadership skills, right? And I think it's a good sign for Mexico, because we constantly say that we're running out of leaders on that dressing room, but I think today was a good reminder that Edson Alvarez, who's a young lad who has been with La Selección for a while now, it's setting or settling into that spot, or that a specific role of the next leader for eltri, as soon as Guillermo Ochoa decides to hang his gloves.
Yeah, and Edson Alvarez, you mentioned he's only 25 years old. He's already had 63 caps or 64 with this one, which is
That's
crazy.
not common for a Mexican young Mexican player.
Yeah, they either peak super early and then they drop and stop getting called up, or they peak late. And yeah, they're. I mean, for someone to have that consistency, he's been with the selección since 2017 with the major team. And yeah, that's he developed in a good leader. I agree. Whenever that date comes, of Memo Ochoa retiring, hanging up his boots, we don't know when. I think he'll definitely be captain material there.
Yeah.
Well, for Mexico, upcoming match is going to be against Haiti, Thursday, June 29th. And they close up against Qatar, who Qatar ended up sending their B team in this tournament and ended up losing to Haiti today. So I don't know why they keep inviting Qatar. So definitely not the biggest test for Mexico. We won't see a big test for them against, maybe until the semifinals. So expect them to hopefully get all 9 points from this group. But we'll definitely give our takeaways from those next matches for USA and Mexico throughout this week. So keep it here with PPG. Adriana, as we wrap up, man, where can our listeners find us, dude?
Dude, they can all find us on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on the notifications. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast on. Last but not least, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Puro Pinche Gol. We post stuff every now and then.
Yeah, make sure to let us know in the comments as well. We like interacting with you guys down there. Are you on board the Lamborghini here? Lamborghini. Let us know what you think of his first win here for La Selección Mexicana, 4-0. Do you think Mexico is back? Do you think this was just, hey, they played a really weak Honduras side? Obviously, they looked a lot better than they did ever against Theo Coca, so that's at least positive. Also, let us know what changes you'd make to the USMNT squad. Are you in agreement with those 3 players we mentioned that probably should not be on the squad anymore? Who should start next game? And how do you see this Gold Cup playing out for both teams? Love to interact with you guys down there in the comments. At the end, man, another good episode here. I'll see you in the next one, brother.
Take it easy, my friend.
See you, man.
Deuce.